lot of history at Sutton rather. My wife used to practice teach here years ago. All four of my children went here. And I've got a grandson, Otto Scholl, that goes here. And I've got 3 more grandchildren going to be coming here next year. So you guys have a wonderful school here. What they're doing for you, I hope you appreciate. I know you're young now, but just absorb some of this stuff. What I do is I blow things up. I get a bang out of my job. I do it legally. I started off doing this when I was in the Army. I was a forward observer. I was a captain. What I did is, and you've all seen this in movies, I adjusted the artillery rounds. I was the one that told them where to put the artillery rounds. After I got out of the Army, I went to college, and I suggest you all, if you can do that. I graduated and I moved to Kentucky from Massachusetts, and I became the first inspector of the Division of Explosives and Blasting. I was in law enforcement with it. I regulated all the blasting that went on in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky uses more explosives than any state in the Union. Can anyone wonder why? What do we do a lot of mining in Kentucky? Coal. Mine a lot of coal. We have to use explosives. What you're sitting on right now, and what your cars are made of, and what your houses are made of, and what your highways are made of, we would not have if we didn't blast it. I'm a blaster. I'm a certified blaster. I'm a certified blaster trainer. I teach people how to do it, and I go out and do it myself. I work in underground mines. I work in surface mines. I work in tunnels, and it's something like 6'6" crawling through a tunnel that's lower than this table. It's real cute, but we have to have explosives. But what we have to do with these explosives is use them properly. My occupation is the most dangerous and hazardous occupation in the country, aside from these people that fly cars. But it is very dangerous. You have to know what you're doing. You have to follow the rules. You break a rule at home, you get a spanking. You break a rule in my business, and it can kill you. I hate to sound that way, but it can kill you. But we have to have it. If we didn't have explosives, you wouldn't have electricity. We mine the coal, and the way to get to the coal is we have to blast it and then dig the coal out, or we mine it underground. I work underground, and this is the type of equipment I have. This is my hard hat, it's called. And it's a special hard hat because my underground light goes right on the top of this. And I have to wear that. Along with it, these are the coveralls that I wear. And these coveralls, as you can see, have these stripes on them. The purpose of these stripes, it's pitch black dark down there. And all we have is that little helmet light on. And if somebody light hits my coveralls, it'll flash back at them and let them know that I'm here. But the other things that we need blasting for, aside from building highways and the other areas we're living on, is that we have to turn things over, such as what we mine for copper. We mine copper, we mine gold. We mine all these items, and you're not going to get them unless we can blast. The other things that we have to blast are not only for tunnels, but our trenches. The pipelines that you have that bring gas to your house, we have to blast those trenches out. And we have to do them very carefully because right next to these trenches are houses. The thing with blasting, what we do is we drill a hole in the rock. Drill a hole in the rock, and then we carefully measure the amount of explosives that we're going to put in there. And then we put timers on these called blasting caps. And each one of these holes will detonate at a certain period of time. We build our highways with them. You've all ridden down the highways with your parents. You ever remember going through a rock cut, going through the highway, and there's big high walls of rock? You've all seen those, haven't you? Next time you go through there, take a look at that piece of that high wall. You'll see little scalloped holes. And what those are specially designed blasts, because normally the blast just blows the rock all over the place. but we need to have a nice clean wall there. So what we do is what's called, not that it matters, called a pre-split. And all we want to do there is make that rock nice and sheer so the rocks don't fall off when you all go driving by. We also use blasting for quarries. The limestone. Kentucky is the greatest state to have a limestone, especially down in the Bowling Green area. But limestone is used to make the aggregate for your concrete, for your asphalt, all these things that you need every day that you don't think about. Take the explosives away, and we got to break it apart with a hammer, and that's not going to work. Some of the other things we do with mining is what we call fracking, and this for oil. We'll blast sand. This is sand here, but it's very high quality sand. What we use it for is fracking in gas and oil. And again, we have to use it. We're highly regulated. I have to have a license. Every time that I put off a blast, I have to have a record of it. And we also, when we're blasting, we're regulated because when you blast, there's a boom, and you hear it, and it shakes the ground. If it shakes the ground too much, it's going to damage houses. So what I use, and I didn't bring one, is a seismograph. Every blast that I put off, I put a seismograph next to the closest house to make sure the ground vibration breaks the rock, but does not break or damage the house. The other thing we need to be careful with when we blast is not to overblast. And you see this stuff on TV where a blast goes off and everything goes flying all over the place. We don't want that. What they're doing is showing you that just for an example. But we don't want to do that because we don't want to hurt people. Those rocks, some of them as big as that, can fly as far as 4,000 feet if they don't control them properly. And it can be very damaging, needless to say. But we use the explosives, we've got to have it, but we've got to do it very carefully. The thing about it, if you ever think about getting into this business, is it's dirty, you're outside, you're covered with dust. When I come in sometimes out in the field, I'm just covered with dust, covered with mud. If it's 20 degrees outside, we're still working out there. We have to do it. We have to run those drills and we have to load those explosives. Doesn't matter what the weather is, we've got to be out there. So it is a very dirty industry. And here I've got a college degree and I go out and, of course, I was raised a farmer, so it doesn't matter. But it's a very dangerous and very dirty occupation. Some other things that I did, I used to run coal mines. I don't know if you're way too young to remember this, but Mr. Green, who used to own Executive Inn, had coal mines. I ran those coal mines for him. Now, he's out of business, so I started my own consulting company. Some of the things, my main job now is to help people that have problems with blasting. Most of the people that are out there blasting the blasters don't have the experience. I've been in this business now 50 years, older than your parents are. But I've had all kinds of experiences, some good, some bad. So whenever they have problems, they call me to help them out. A couple of other things that I work for my consulting company is I work for the government. I get to make bombs. When the government is involved in a terrorist situation in court, I have to go out and I remake the bomb that the terrorist is going to use, and then I test it to make sure it's going to work. I've blown cars up, which is really, it's kind of cool to go out there and do it and get away with it and get paid for it. But the government will hire me to duplicate the bomb to see if it will work. We'll actually work on that. And I've blown a couple of cars up here in Davis County. It was kind of interesting to do that. The other thing I am, aside from a blaster, I'm a professional geologist. I have to know the rock. I've got to know the rock, I've got to know what it can do, I've got to know the exact amount of explosives that I can put in to break the rock, but not to blow it all over the county. Many of the quarries that I work in are very, very expensive quarries to operate, and they produce very, very expensive minerals. Right here is a nugget of quartz. I got this at a quarry up in North Carolina. This piece of quartz here, when we're done, you can come up and look at some of this stuff. This little nugget of rock right here is probably worth $300. It's very expensive. Quartz is used in the electronic industry. Your computers and areas like that. That stuff will probably sell somewhere to $6,000 to $7,000 a ton. Not that that means much to you. In the same quarry, they have what's called mica. Mica usually it comes in little tiny pieces. I was fortunate to find this stuff. Some of it here is as big as a plate. Okay, as big as a plate. Now, one of the things I also did, I've written several books on blasting. This is called a blasting primer or primer. A primer is the charge that sets off the explosives. Another thing, if you're out roaming around Kentucky especially, in being a geologist, this is called a geode. If you find one of these, it looks like a piece of mud, but it's light. Hit it with another rock, and look what you got inside.
Whoa.
Go ahead.
One time, I cut open a rock with a hammer. And it looked like that.
Yeah, and they're fun. Some of them you can get that are beautiful inside. Other things, granite. These are the tabletops your parents have at home. We blast that out. Now lastly, these are blasting caps. We use millions of these a year. This is what they look like. We use them in Kentucky, as I said. If you ever find one of these laying on the ground, because it could happen, get away from it. Find an adult or find a police officer and tell them what you have. But these are blasting caps, very dangerous. They're very dangerous. If you ever find them, don't touch it, leave it alone, and go get someone like your parents or a police officer.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
That's very interesting. Now, he said question, he didn't say story, okay?
Okay. Where did you find that?
That geode,
No, the big one.
this big one, in North Carolina. You don't have it here. Yes, ma'am.
I was born in North Carolina.
I couldn't hear you.
Katie, that's not a question. Boys and girls, we need to go to our next station.